FIM Sidecar World Championship reaches its midway point with the Hungarian Grand Prix, round 3 of the 2017 campaign. The latest visit to the Pannoniaring precedes a near 2-month mid-season break before the final rounds in August and September, so this is a crucial time for the outfits to improve their series ranking. The Sidecar World Championship joined German Speed Week in Oschersleben for round 2, the first double race weekend of the season. 3 outfits in particular provided the bulk of the entertainment in both sprint and gold races. Slow starts in both races left Holden and Wilkes with work to do, but they proved masters of the opening lap. In the sprint race, they passed first Blackstock and Rosny, and then Stroyer and De Haas on the same lap to take a first podium of the campaign after their round 1 retirements. Blackstock and Rosny slipped gradually back following their strong start, dropping down to 8th after losing out to Grabmüller and Kirchhofer on lap 2, and then to Laurie and Hughes on lap 4. Laurie and Hughes continued to work their way through the field well, getting the better of Grabmüller and Kirchhofer on the final turn for 5th position and their second successive double-figure score. Out in front, it was a lonely race for Ben and Tom Birchall. Another 25 championship points in the bag and secured with a 10-second advantage over Päivärinta and Kainalainen. The protagonists were the same in the gold race. And again, it was an isolated victory for Ben and Tom Birchall, but they were certainly made to work for it on the opening lap. An excellent start from Päivärinta and Kainalainen, forcing the Yamaha runners to find a way through to lead. Holden and Wilkes again missed the start but swiftly recovered, getting the better of Stroyer and De Haas for 3rd position. Focus for the remainder of the race was the battle for 5th, again between Grabmüller and Kirchhofer and Laurie and Hughes. The Austrian duo held the position in the early stages after a lap 3 pass, but their speed faded as the race went on, Laurie and Hughes coming back at them and making their own overtaking manoeuvre. Their grip on the position was short-lived though, as they ran wide on the very next lap while chasing Stroyer and De Haas, ceding the advantage to Grabmüller and Kirchhofer. Using their superior pace to close back in, Laurie and Hughes made the same move down the inside of the final turn on lap 13. But again, they ran wide through the triple, and this time Grabmüller and Kirchhofer were able to hold on to secure 5th position. A 3rd successive victory for Ben and Tom Birchall extended their 12-race unbeaten streak at international level, whilst increasing their championship lead to 15 points over Päivärinta and Kainalainen. Successive podium finishes for Holden and Wilkes moved them closer in the standings to Stroyer and De Haas, in what is seemingly developing into a separate fight for 3rd overall. Practice and qualifying not only decide the crucial grid positions and provide a guide to relative pace, but are also an extremely valuable opportunity to improve lap times in the race. Even for an experienced pair such as Ben and Tom Birchall, meticulous preparations and careful use of practice enable them to find extra speed during the weekend, preparing themselves for the point-scoring opportunities presented by the race.
For us, the preparation is the most important part, and without that preparation and the way that we go about it, the racing wouldn't be possible. So we really make a big effort to get everything perfect and make the most of the track time that we have in practice and qualifying. We always have some strategies for testing things, but it depends on how qualifying goes. If we manage to get a good setup quickly and we're fast quickly, then we'll take some time to test. The suspension, geometry, and then of course there's the fueling and the way that the engine is performing. As well as the tyres and what tyre we want to use or how long we think a tyre will last. So there's quite a lot of it involved. It's not just taking the bike from one circuit to the next. It's a different setup for each circuit. We're looking for a lap time. We're also looking for a race pace as well. So you can find over the practicing you can find maybe 2 seconds on a lap. We have a set procedure, and the mechanics that we have work hard to make sure that everything is at a perfect level so that the bike's got the best chance of finishing the race.
As well as dialing the bike in, Ben will get dialed in and I'll get dialed in as well. So you know, we discuss my position on the bike, or if I can help in a different way or a different corner, and that's evolving all the time as the lap times improve, or as the bike changes, as we change the setup. You know, I might have to do something different, compensate in a different way. So yeah, it's always changing, and practice is very important to get ready for the race.
For World Championship rookies Blackstock and Rosny, practice really is the first opportunity to see each circuit, and their focus is on learning the track and the setup as quickly as possible.
We just come to the track, do a few laps on the mountain bikes, and then go from there really. Don't really watch any onboards, I think it's better just to come and just learn it on the bike. Basically the main thing is sorting the gearing out. The bike is more or less the same for all the tracks. Maybe a few clicks on the suspension, but nothing major. It's more about the gearing, getting the gearing right. We only have one bike at the minute, so it's just a short chassis for us. It's all learning curve and experience this year, and we'll see what next year brings.
The FIM Sidecar World Championship returns to the Pannoniaring for the third time, having proven popular with competitors and spectators alike. Last season, Pannoniaring and Kynaläinen were one of 2 race winners, and they will be hoping for a similar result in 2017 to bring themselves back into contention in the championship. Qualifying saw championship leader and pre-race favourites Ben and Tom Birchall take pole position by a 2.5 second margin over main series rivals Pannoniaring and Kynaläinen. The biggest surprise of the session was number 3 in the standings, Stroyer and Russo, reunited following the Frenchman's injury, qualifying just 5th behind Michael Grabmuller and Sebastian Lavarelle, the latter taking the place of the retired Sophia Kirchhofer. Outside of the top 3, positions were more closely fought in qualifying, suggesting plenty of battles in prospect for the lower order teams. Team SLR was surprisingly relegated all the way down to 9th on the grid. Their worst position of the season would have to work their way through from the 4th row to maintain their run of double-figure scores. The race got underway with a strong start from Pannoniaring and Kynaläinen in the middle of the front row, challenged on the inside by Holden and Wilkes, who ran out of steam in the charge to the first turn and dropped back to 4th. Stroyer and Russo were the grateful beneficiaries of Holden and Wilkes running too deep on turn 1, moving up from 5th to 3rd. Meanwhile at the front, Ben and Tom Birchall had quickly recovered the lead at the expense of Pannoniaring and Kynaläinen. Having made a poor start and dropped 2 positions from 8th, Bachmeier and Weschelberger were keen to recover through the opening sequence of turns, and they flipped dramatically out of the action. Race Direction made the decision to red flag the race, taking all of the teams back to the pits while Bachmeier and Weschelberger recovered. "15 minutes later, the outfits returned to the track, rejoined by the Austrians. The restart produced a similar run down to the first turn as the initial staging, with Pannoniaring and Kynaläinen again making the start, and Ben and Tom Birchall left trailing along the outside for the first turn. As the front 2 pulled away from a train, led by Holden and Wilkes, they duelled for the lead, Ben and Tom Birchall visibly faster. It was only a matter of time before they found their way through, and having probed unsuccessfully at turn 5, they made a sweep around the outside at turn 12 to capture the lead. Meanwhile, at the rear of the field, Bachmeier and Weschelberger had suffered an even poorer start at the second attempt, dropping 4 positions in the run down to the first turn and ending up 11th. They were relegated even further as Rutz and Fries started to work their way back following an unsuccessful qualifying. They came down the inside to take 11th and relegate Bachmeier and Weschelberger 1 place from the back of the field. Their next target was the Cumbria Express, piloted by Baker and Baker Holden, who'd got away brilliantly from the back of the grid to move into the top 10, but were clearly slower than the outfits behind them and dropped back. Bachmeier and Weschelberger followed Rutz and Fries through, Baker and Baker Holden retiring at the end of the lap with clutch problems. Reunited following Manfred Weschelberger's return from injury sustained in Le Mans, Bachmeier and Weschelberger quickly found their feet after lap 1's series of position drops and closed back in on Rutz and Fries for 11th. A lap after dropping behind them, they were poised to pounce, making it down the inside into turn 9 and now with clear air ahead of themselves for the first time. Having moved up from 9th to 7th on the opening lap, Laurie and Dealey suffered a dip in speed on lap 4, running 2 seconds short of their own pace from the previous lap, and they were punished first by Remsen Shorter, then by Kimswenger and Lenertz later in the lap. The race for third continued right to the checkered flag meanwhile, Holden and Wilkes converting their qualifying advantage over Stroyer and Russo to hold track position, with the international team looking for a way through, having closed onto their tail. The pursuit would eventually prove fruitless, but the two outfits were separated by just 0.3 of a second at the checkered flag. The race's final position change took place on lap 6, Bachmeier and Weschelberger's recovery continuing as they snatched 10th position from Rossinger and Werner. Up front, Ben and Tom Birchall extended their lead by a second a lap on the way to a comfortable 9-second victory. Päivärinta and Kainalainen an isolated second, almost 20 seconds up the road from the squabble over third. A fourth victory of the season for Ben and Tom Birchall extended their series lead to 20 championship points. Päivärinta and Kainalainen maintaining their run of second place finishes to ensure that just one retirement for the LCR Yamaha would change the leaders of the series. Making slow progress to recover lost ground after a round 1 crash, Holden and Wilkes clawed themselves 3 points closer to Stroyer and Russo by beating their direct rivals for the third race in succession, taking another podium finish in the process.
It's good, we had a close race with Benny Stroyer, so that kept us on our toes, but they were good. This guy did amazing, never put a foot wrong.
The race was a bit boring because there was a big gap in front and behind. Pekka and I really tried our best, but there was no chance to move forward. Okay, it's second place, but that's not enough for us.
Good race, you know, great to get another win, and the guys are getting quicker and quicker, and it shows in their lap times as well. And tomorrow will be a long, hard race, I'm sure of it, and we'll look forward to that.
With 4 races complete and 4 remaining, first and second positions already settling down, but with Holden and Wilkes beating Stroyer and Russo twice in succession, the gap between third and fourth had narrowed to just 7 points. The top 5 outfits finished in the same order for the third successive race, Ben and Tom Birchall with a clear pace advantage on top once again. At the season's halfway mark, the most interesting battle developing is for third position. Ahead of the gold race, 5 outfits sat separated by 18 points, Blackstock and Rosny trailing the group from 7th on 37 points.
It was a bit of a lonely race yesterday, really. We ended up 6 after that, the second lap, and everyone just spread out the field. So the changes we've made, really, not a lot. We've just put some new tyres on, and every time we go out, we're going faster because we're new to the track. So that's it. That's all we've done, basically.
Directly ahead of the number 95 outfit in the standings, but 20 seconds behind them in the sprint race, Team SLR suffered their worst result of the season on their debut at the Pannoniaring, taking 9th. That result leaves them 6 points down on Grabmuller and Lavarelle, who sit 5th, one of only 4 riders to have secured a double-figure tally at every round. Yesterday, the first start was very good for us, but then there was a red flag and a restart. We didn't get such a good getaway the second time, and it took us half a dozen corners to pass Blackstock. By then, Streuer and Holden were quite far in front, and once they were 6 seconds ahead, the race became very hard for us. I have a new passenger, and it's the first time that we've raced together, so 15 laps today will be quite long for us. Meanwhile, John Holden's Silicon Barnes Racing appears to have a similar pace to Team Streuer in 2017, and having narrowly beaten them in 3 successive races, they've recovered the majority of the 16 points lost through retirement in Le Mans. Yesterday, the first start was better than the second, but I still had a good race. I caught John Holden, but I couldn't pass him, and I probably needed 2 or 3 more laps. Today is the gold race, so I have 6 laps more to pass Holden. Perhaps I can do it today.
En ik hoop dat het, we hebben nu een langere race, 6 rondes meer. Ik hoop dat ik nu John Holden voorbij kan.
The outfits recovered their starting positions from the sprint race for the longer 15-lap gold race. The top 2 in the championship occupying the front row alongside Holden and Wilkes. Once again, Streuer and Russo would be aiming to climb from 5th position in the hope of returning to the podium for the first time since Le Mans. Another fast start from Päivärinta and Kainalainen made for an interesting first lap up front, while behind them it was equally action-packed in the early stages. After a disappointing sprint race following early season promise, Laurie and Dealey had another frustrating start in which they were swallowed up in the run down to the first turn and failed initially to make up positions. The British duo was left fighting for 7th place, while their main rivals in the top 6 positions pulled well clear. After another strong start, Baker and Baker Holden dropped swiftly from 7th towards the back of the field, and they occupied last position from lap 2 until the end of the race. Meanwhile, an underwhelming start from Kimswenger and Lenertz had dropped them from 6th to 9th, and they were keen to recover swiftly with the lead group pulling away. Bachmeier and Weschelberger were their latest victims, the Austrians slipping to 9th. After a lap 1 pursuit, Ben and Tom Birchall scythed through for the lead on lap 2, down the inside into turn 1 with Päivärinta and Kainalainen unable to respond. As they had in the sprint race, the British duo opened their margin by a second a lap, leaving the Finns with another lonely race. Separated by just a second at the end of lap 2, 3 outfits fought for 10th place. After an initially unsuccessful attack on Rossinger and Werner for the position, Rutz and Fries dropped back with Remps and Shorter coming through. The Remps Racing Yamaha had also got past Rossinger and Werner by the end of the lap. Up ahead, Kimswenger and Lenertz continued to progress following their slow start, picking off Laurie and Dealey to move 7th. Team SLC again surprisingly subdued compared to performances in France and Germany. Kimswenger and Lenertz made no further position gains and eventually dropped behind the resurgent Remps and Shorter to take 8th. With Remps and Shorter now clear of both outfits, Rutz and Fries and Rossinger and Werner resumed their battle, now over 11th position. The Swiss duo made it down the inside into turn 1 on lap 4, and once ahead, were able to run a second a lap faster to extend their gap to the finish. Meanwhile, an error from Päivärinta and Kainalainen livened up the battle for second. The Finns running wide at turn 2 and off the circuit, enabling Holden and Wilkes to come through. The reigning world champions rejoin the circuit back on the tail of the Brits, and now with a damage limitation mission in mind. Having worked their way through from the back of the pack at the end of lap 1, Remps and Shorter made swift work of Bachmeier and Weschelberger when they approached them on lap 5, on their way towards an eventual 7th place finish to match their sprint race results. That result was assisted by retirement for Laurie and Dealey, a frustrating weekend for them, ending in a mechanical failure. A costly outcome from the race with their championship rivals all scoring well. Päivärinta and Kainalainen made up 2 seconds over 3 laps to finally sit back on Holden and Wilkes' tail in the early stages of lap 7. The Finns probed for a way through before getting a much better run off turn 5, snatching the inside and track position through turn 6. They eventually finished almost 14 seconds clear, an isolated ride in the final 8 laps. Easing up the pace on their last trip around the circuit, Ben and Tom Birchall came home a comfortable 19 seconds ahead of Päivärinta and Kainalainen, making it 5 wins out of 5 for the British duo. The race winners and series leaders can now theoretically afford a retirement and still be favourites for the title, thanks to a 25-point cushion at the top of the table. Stroyer and Rousseau closed to within 4 seconds of Holden and Wilkes by the checkered flag, but missed out on the podium for a 4th consecutive race, meaning their advantage from 3rd is slashed further to just 4 points.
At the beginning, Pekka was in front with Ben, and then Pekka made a small mistake, and I managed to nip up the inside of him. And then I wasn't sure how close he was, but my board was saying plus no, so I knew he was there. But also I was bothered about Benny Stroyer. I thought he was somewhere near, but we had a good race. Good race.
Good race.
The start was good and we had the lead for a lap, but Birchall took first position and he was too fast. We missed one right-hander too wide, but we came back and caught Holden and Wilkes. We couldn't have done any better, even though the bike was good. It was a good race.
It was good, a long race, you know, and quite difficult. We had to manage the tyres to make sure that we had enough rear tyre at the end of it, but other than that everything was perfect, and the bike's been great, and you know, thanks to everybody that helps us to do this, and as you said, yeah, perfect weekend again. Thank you.
The championship standings show 2 clear leaders, with the top 3 now covered by a massive 57 points. Further down the order, Laurie and Hughes dropped to 7th with their retirement and seemingly out of the battle for 5th position. But there's no stopping Ben and Tom Birchall in 2017 as they passed the season's halfway mark undefeated.